Bumstead's audience followers is way higher than anybody else in the division. So he's content with, for some reason, he's content with making his 50 grand. I think if he spoke up, I interviewed him for Muscle and Fitness, and he's just not money motivated.
Well, he's making a lot of money outside of boxing.
Right. So he's not prize money motivated. He's title motivated.
Right.
But if he made a stand and say, look, this is ridiculous, 50 grand versus 400 grand, you guys are going to have to pick it up. And if they did, and there was a $250,000, $300,000 first prize for classic physique, you'd see more guys pay more attention.
I created Species Nutrition with one mission in mind: to provide bodybuilders and serious athletes with no-nonsense supplements that work. I put my name and reputation on every bottle of Species Nutrition products. If you want to be your absolute best, join the evolution.
This is Kyle. Kyle doesn't like junk food. Kyle doesn't do drugs. Kyle likes to work out. Do some good shit.
You're fine.
Like I said, do you like my tail? What kind of shit?
Welcome back to another episode of Iron Rage. I'm Dave Palumbo, joined by Lee Priest and John Romano today, and we're going to be raging about a lot of good stuff. What's up, guys?
Hello.
Lee, what is it, like 3 in the morning there?
No, 5:15 a.m. on a beautiful Friday. It's already close to 30 degrees. It's good.
That's late for you already. You've been up for hours probably.
Got up about 10 to 4.
He wakes up so early in the morning. I kind of like it because he's always available to us, but I don't know anyone who on a routine basis wakes up so early, John.
I have a good friend who does. He was in the military for 22 years.
Right.
He just can't break the habit. He's up at 4 o'clock, every day.
And if I do try and sleep, and say I do wake up at 4 even on the weekend, and I'm like, well, the wife doesn't have to go to work. I can lay in bed longer. If I doze back off just for half an hour, that second time I wake up, I feel like shit. So I just get up.
Because as soon as his eyes open, John, he's thinking, I got to clean the litter boxes.
Exactly.
I got to lists in his head of all.
Well, trust me, come 4 o'clock every morning, the cats know. Meow, meow, meow.
Because they know you get up that early. That's why.
Right.
It's still dark out. They're only sleeping otherwise.
As I was coming back from dropping the wife off, the big bats were flying back to the main groves.
You guys have bats there, don't you?
Big ones.
Yeah, we're big ones. If you Google them, just put in flying fox, and like you Americans think you have bats. You have these good.
You're so like a cat with wings.
We have ones like this wingspan, like this, like actual looks like Batman when they wrap their wings around.
Do they ever crash into cars and shit like that while you're driving?
Actually, I was at a car show the other day, and this guy had a hot rod, with the open. It's like an open hot rod, and he said he almost crashed the weekend before. He was driving down the freeway, and one of the bats flew, and it almost looks like a Munsters car. I said, would have been perfect for the car. It flew inside the car, and he couldn't get it out.
They look like the flying monkeys from the Wizard of Oz, John, don't they?
They do.
But they call them a flying fox because their face almost looks like a fox when you see it close.
It's crazy.
But their wingspan, and when they wrap around, it just looks like the Batman's cape when you watch the Batman movie.
I wonder if you can keep those as pets. Those are pretty cool. Imagine having those things jumping around your house.
Yeah.
I'd pass on that one, but I wouldn't mind it if the ones out in the wild would, come over and say hi every day.
Yeah.
But during night, as the sun's going down here at night time in the morning, they leave the mangroves, which is only like a couple of minutes away, and they just head somewhere over that way. You'll see hundreds of them just flying across the sky and this way. And then if you're unlucky, you'll get all bat shit over your car. If you left your car out, then you got to hose that off.
It eats the paint.
Mm.
Yeah. What is that stuff? It's got a name for bat.
Guano.
Oh, right. I figured you'd know. What is it, John, again?
Guano.
Yeah. It's funny because they got the coolest flying stuff in Australia. They got the flying foxes, and then they got, you guys have like parrots and cockatoo. I mean,
the black ones, we had a few black ones go over yesterday. They're sort of more rare, like the silver, the gold and the red crested black cockatoos. And when they make a squawk, it sounds like a child being choked, which I don't mind the sound of, but it's like it's going across.
But like people pay huge amounts of money here in the States to have those birds, and they just like flying over your roof, like right there.
Yeah. Do you know the abuse I got the other day, right? Because I was going on about school zones again. And people are just, how can you say that, Lee? If you had a kid, I said, I do have a daughter. But I said, she's smart. I said, look, kindergartens, preschools, schools where the kids are maybe under 8, have a school zone, slow down, because they can dart out. I said, but once you get the higher up schools where you're a teenager, 13, on high schools and colleges, why do we have to go further? You should be old enough to cross the fucking road with the speed zone being 40, because they double the fines. And someone's like, how could you say that? Saying kids should get run over. I said, I didn't say they should get run over. I said, parents are too busy on their phone. They're not watching their kid. But I said, if you're a teenager and you can't cross the road, I said, you deserve to get fucking hit because you don't have kids.
Lee, you don't have kids. That's why, because I'm telling you, they do not think, their brains just do not process. They just
but when they're like 13, 14, they do.
Let me advise you as to what's coming, Dave. When they turn like 15, 16, 17, they're 100% dumber than they were when they were 5. They are absolutely retards. Dumber than
hormones. That's right.
That they're idiots. I'm telling you.
Because it is.
Exactly.
Hey, so it's like 100 degrees in Australia now, like during the day, John. It's like super hot. And Lee goes to me, yeah, I'm having trouble sleeping. I'm like, why aren't you? I said, you must have air conditioning in your bedroom. He goes, no, I don't have any in my bedroom. I'm like, what? I don't know any bodybuilder that sleeps in a bedroom without air conditioning. You are out of your mind.
Oh,
even Greg Valentino has an air conditioning in his bedroom.
No, he has a TV that doesn't work that makes noise.
And the noise machine. And noise maker. And you have a noise machine and the turtle tank.
Is your air conditioning system like mini splits? You have one in each.
Yeah, I don't have one in the bedroom where I mainly sleep.
Why is that? That's
I told him to get a wall unit. I mean, a unit. Window unit.
Window unit.
Yeah, those window units are actually really strong. You'll be freezing
my wife doesn't get much sleep standing over me with the big palm leaf all night doing this for hours on end as I'm trying to.
It's like she's got a sleeping problem. I have the air conditioning running the whole year, all year round. So
yeah.
Even when
then you get the electricity bill here. You like documentaries, don't you, Dave? I just finished watching the Robbie Williams one on Netflix. Wasn't too bad.
Robbie, what was it about?
Robbie Williams, the singer, just about how he started off with, Take That, then he got into the drugs and all this sort of stuff, and just his life, career, and all that. So that's a full rock star. Yeah, pretty much, yeah. But how relentless the British press was on him, even when he's making the #1 hits, they're just ripping him apart. And
I'll have to check it out. I'm always up for a good documentary. Speaking of interviews and documentaries, I saw Chris Bumstead. I watched him. He was on Patrick Bet-David's podcast this morning at 9 a.m. I sent John the link, but he didn't have time to watch it. But I thought that was pretty cool that Patrick's, kind of getting bodybuilders back on the show. I remember for a while he was doing he had Dorian on, he had Wayne D'Amelia, he had, I think he had Dexter on, right? Didn't he?
Yeah, Ryan.
You were supposed to be on too. Wait.
I was meant to be on, but that's when COVID hit. I was meant to be on there.
Yeah.
Good thing I wasn't. He mightn't have had a show anymore.
We should have him back on our show.
Yeah, we should probably ask him again. He was good when he came on the show, and he answered a lot of questions.
Didn't Chris just have his hair transplant with Ian as well?
Yeah, I think this was tape before that, though, because Yeah, it looked like he still had a, because they shaved his head for that. He must have recorded this, like a month or two ago. But the interesting thing about, he was asking him. There was a few things that I thought were interesting. By and far, I thought it was kind of boring because toward the second half of the interview, he was asking him about like Canadian, politics, and Chris doesn't give a crap about that. And he was asking him about like Ozempic, and Chris is not an expert in that kind of stuff, and so I thought that was not really, that kind of got boring. But he was asking him initially about classic physique and how the popularity of it soared, and how he thinks that because the Olympia champ gets $400,000 for the winner, and the classic champ Chris has been getting $50,000, and Patrick Bet-David was saying it's not fair, and don't you think that the classic is more popular? Look at your following. And I thought that Chris should have clarified to Patrick, hey, you know what? Yeah, I love classic, and I want to promote it as being the biggest class, but the bottom line is that without the open bodybuilding there would be no classic, because let's face it, what puts people in the seats is not classic. It's open bodybuilding. And while Chris has a great following, the other guys, in the class really don't. I mean, aside from Ramon Dino, who's a celebrity in Brazil in his own right.
I think just maybe Chris, Ramon, and Urs, they're the main ones that have, I think, they're probably the best following.
Yeah, but, if you had to give fans a choice, take Chris out of the equation because he's very popular. And you said, would you rather go see Urs versus Ramon or Hottie versus,
well, it's like just put bikini in that on. What crowd do you think the bikini or them would get? It's like just the women sports always complaining we don't get paid like the men. Well, the men are generating billions. You're generating millions. Correct. But then someone did a breakdown. They actually said, say the women do make 100 million compared to the men 6 billion. The percentage that comes out of that, the women are actually paid a higher percentage from the total than the men anyway. So,
yeah.
I think it's two completely different audiences, though. The audience that wants super hardcore open bodybuilding is different from the audience that enjoys classic. So Arnold would give the overall Mr. Olympia title to the classic winner. That's where that mentality is, old school versus new school. The new school open bodybuilder fan is the fan of a freak, whereas the rest of the divisions, except for maybe the women bodybuilders, are don't occupy the freak status, and it appeals to a different audience. You made a good point before. Bumstead's audience followers is way higher than anybody else in the division, so he's content with, for some reason, he's content with making his $50,000. I think if he spoke up, I interviewed him for Muscle and Fitness, and he's just not money motivated.
Well, he's making a lot of money outside of bodybuilding.
Right. So he's not prize money motivated. He's title motivated.
Right.
But if he made a stand and said, look, this is fucking ridiculous. $50,000 versus $400,000, you guys are going to have to pick it up. And if they did, and there was a $250,000, $300,000 first prize for classic physique, you'd see more guys pay more attention.
Interestingly,
John, are you trying to say these guys would stand together? Let me tell you a story about this guy, Lee Priest.
I never said that. I said if Chris made a stand.
No,
I never said anything about anybody else.
You and Patrick Bet-David made the same point. Patrick Bet-David said to him, if I was your agent or I represented you, I would be calling the powers that be every day. They would hate my guts. And I'd be saying, if you don't raise the prize money, Chris ain't going to be competing because he's selling tickets. And my whole view on that point is Patrick doesn't know the organization very well because they don't care who competes.
Well, that's the thing now. He can say Chris ain't competing, but if they all had the balls and said, if Chris ain't competing, none of us are competing, then the organization would have to take notice. And that's why today I say to the athletes, a lot of them, go fuck yourselves, because you always complain every year and do this and do that, but you do nothing about it, so you get what you deserve.
Well, Steve Weinberger just, I talked to him the other day. He just doubled,
20,000.
He doubled the prize money on New York Pro. He's given away almost 120,000 total prize money. The men are getting the winner of New York Pro now gets $25,000 plus a $5,000 ring. And he's like, Dave, I'm trying my hardest. I know you're right. I know everyone's right. If I raise the prize money, that's going to force the other promoters to do it. And I'm trying to do the right thing. I said, Steve, of course you are. I said, you always have been for the athlete. I mean, it has to make economical sense for you too. Obviously, you don't have a sponsor. You can't do it. But I said, that's why you're, people say Steve's doing such a great job because you are putting it out there. He goes, yeah, but he goes, I don't know if people, I said, people appreciate it, Steve. Believe me, people appreciate it.
Exactly. And the thing is, that's why they need someone like I said, Patrick Davis said he'd be on the phone every day. Yeah. That's why I said bodybuilding needs somebody like that, like a Jerry Maguire, who's just relentless, right. Going to all these outside companies. Because like I said, when you look at Red Bull, they sponsor some of the daftest sports that I've seen to get on ESPN. Right? I'm thinking, like, let's build a little, like a thing with wings on and drive off a pier, and whoever goes the furthest.
That's way more dangerous than steroids, exactly.
Right. Well, see, that's the thing is, if there was an agent or somebody that's going to be relentless, they should be going after Monster, Red Bull, these giant companies that sponsor all of this bullshit. Yeah. And they shouldn't be looking for 25 grand for first prize. They should be looking for 2.5 million.
That's what Patrick Davis said.
Even go after Chevy.
Push the numbers, push the prestige, push the quality and quantity of sponsorship, and then everything raises. But I mean, bodybuilding has been content for decades with the bottom of the barrel. So that's what you get.
Even go after Chevy or Ford, because the old American muscle cars. Have Bumstead driving the new Corvette, seeing his arm and shit.
Exactly.
There's so many companies. Say like you said, you get someone who's just relentless, and he goes to 6,000 companies. He might get 5,500 knockbacks, but those 500 he might get being outside are going to bring all that extra money in, and that's what they need. Someone just keep kicking down doors to get outside, because protein companies and clothing and all the other sponsors are always going to be there, but you need to think outside the box and just go after some. Remember, was it here in Australia, we had Mr. Clean. He was like a bald muscle guy who has companies like that, where you can get someone who's maybe from the classic division or men's physique division. Doesn't have just to be bodybuilding, but there's so many divisions now that people could fit into advertising that could help promote the brands.
One of the biggest missed opportunities is Red Bull. Red Bull gives you wings. You could have had a big dude doing a backlash spread, and Red Bull gives you wings. It would have been, or could be, a windfall for the sponsorships if they would just get it through their heads that these guys are worth more money. And as a lifestyle brand approach to marketing, there's a lot of benefit to using bodybuilders. Pay them. You'll get more, better, good ones. But, they just, like I said, they are content with the bottom of the barrel.
Patrick Davis made a good point. Rogan made it okay to smoke weed. Right? I mean, he single-handedly made it okay and made it seem like, hey, I'm going to smoke weed right on the show.
As long as it was with Elon Musk.
But Rogan made it cool. And advertisers are not afraid of weed. Now weed is essentially becoming legalized, right? If The Rock sat down and had a podcast and said, you know what, steroids are bullshit. You guys don't know what you're talking about. There's no one dying from steroids. Yes, there's people that abuse, just like people can abuse marijuana and probably kill themselves if they really had to. I mean, if they really smoked enough of it. But no one's killing themselves, from hormone replacement. These guys are the healthiest guys on the planet, the way they eat, the way they take vitamins. We should be listening to them. You don't have to go to the extremes of body weight that these other bodybuilders go to. By and far, bodybuilding does foster a healthy lifestyle.
Well, look at Chuck Norris, Stallone, all these people who are doing anti-aging and that. Look at them. It's like even Arnold, he's in his 70s. Look at Arnold, even what's his name, always trained. I saw a picture of him yesterday directing still. Clint Eastwood's in his 90s now and he's still directing movies. And
if The Rock made it cool and made it okay to talk about steroids and take them.
Well, The Rock makes it cool to drink his tequila while he's doing it.
Or someone like him, you know what I mean? Like you need a Rogan who's gonna basically champion anabolics and make them seem like they're not these like it's
Well,
hemlock.
what if the thing they're not when they're used, like you said, for longevity or just for male? Because, like I said, women go through menopause, and here in Australia, a woman can go to a doctor like that and get hormones when she's going through menopause and all this stuff. Men here have to go to the doctor, then go to endocrinologist, and back to the doctor.
Right.
Then a few months later, go back to endocrinologist. If your test is still low or gone high, if it's still high, sorry, you can't get it. It's like, but they'd rather put men on all these Prozacs and all these other things to make them try and feel good, when the majority of them just need some testosterone. They'd be okay.
The greatest hypocrisy in society is that we not only condone but also promote the issuance of sex hormones to girls, teenage girls, so that they can have recreational sex without getting pregnant. Okay, but God forbid you give the same endogenous hormone to a boy.
Yeah,
they give testosterone so we could be better at a sport and get $100 million contract out of it. Oh no,
yeah,
can't do that.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, but if it became so much, if they took away the villainization of it, you would get sponsors that wouldn't be afraid, because who doesn't want to sponsor a good-looking, muscular guy like Bumstead, or who wouldn't want to like promote a freak show like the Mr. Olympia contest? I mean, it's a wet dream for
the thing is too, though, when you look at the soccer players, the NFL players, we know they're all on it. I think bodybuilding shoots ourselves in the foot a lot, because all the other pretty much pro sports, they're using it for recovery, they're using it for whatever. We know they're on steroids, but they don't mention it. Bodybuilding, for some reason, always has to talk about it. Young kids want to bring it up every question, trend this, trend that. It's like, we know it's in the sport, people. Shut up. Knowing what I take or what Ronnie took ain't going to make you me or Ronnie. It ain't going to make you better. If you want to take it, but just shut up and go train and stop, pushing it. It's like,
before Jack Owak sold Bang, before he got into all that, he should have been putting up the $1 million prize money with Bang. He could have done it, and he could have put himself into a separate category, because he doesn't care about what anyone thinks about him anyway. He would have been the sponsor to be that rebel, But he's out of the game now.
I think it's deeper than the drugs. I think if you compare the genesis of bodybuilding to the genesis of any other sport, baseball, football, basketball, hockey, whatever, all those sports were romanticized, they were promoted, they were associated with America, mom and apple pie. It was good. Now you get some big oaf who can lift 500 pounds over his head, and he's a dumb fuck. There's nothing glamorous about that. Nobody glorifies it. Nobody romanticizes it. Steroids or not, it doesn't matter. Everybody in the beginning of all of this, it was the big dumb bodybuilder, the big dumb musclehead. So we were going with a negative connotation from day one. Then we had steroids on top of it. What do you expect? Everybody fucking hates us.
Yeah, but John, do you think people think that the boxers are Rhodes Scholars? Come on.
It's not that boxers are Rhodes Scholars. It's that boxing was a fight sport, and it was romanticized, and it was glorified back in the days of Rome. Yeah. So you're not going to undo that. Bodybuilding started off as an offshoot, fringe, cultish, weird thing that nobody understood and still doesn't understand.
And when you look at
you can take somebody who doesn't know how to drive to a drag race, okay? And it's going to be exciting to them because there's a car with 10,000 horsepower going 300 miles an hour in 2 seconds. So they don't even have to know where the steering wheel is to enjoy that, because it was romanticized, popularized, looked at, glorified, used in advertising and social media, everything. Whereas bodybuilding has always been the exact complete opposite.
Which is weird, isn't it? Because you look back at the wrestling days, when it even started with the WW, was it F before what it became, whatever, when you had the British Bulldogs, the Bumblebees, they had those like Paul Orndorff, Mr. Wonderful. Nearly every wrestler looked like a bodybuilder, but yet it's getting on TV. We know they're taking just as much steroids as the bodybuilders.
No one knew back then.
No
one knew. No one else knew.
People loved it, just watching these guys throwing each other around, big muscular men. They're like looking like bodybuilders, It's just crazy. When bodybuilding comes along, people are like,
That's a really great example, because wrestling Why is WWE so amazingly popular? Why is it all over TV? Why are the wrestlers making millions of dollars in movies, on TV, on commercials, outside of wrestling?
They're big. Yeah, they're big.
Because wrestling was always a good thing. It was in high school you wrestled. You went to college and wrestled. Greco-Roman wrestling. Roman wrestling was in the Olympics. It offshooted. It got made WWE out of it. It was always good. Bodybuilding was never good. And that's the problem. The drugs, I think the drugs have almost nothing to do with it.
Nah.
That's why I said we need a good Jerry Maguire to come on in and, like I said, really push bodybuilding. Because, like I said, even every sport out there, bodybuilders take it to the extreme. But you look at every sport, bodybuilding is pretty much the base of nearly all strength sports and athletes. It's just that we go to the extreme of it. But
if they were promoting this,
like I said, kick doors down.
Yeah, if they were promoting this in the Middle East with millions of dollars for prizes, Americans would latch onto it because they're like, wait a minute, what are we missing over there? How come they got all the big events there? You know?
Who's that latest baseballer who just got what, $700 million?
Yeah, we got it's like the Otani. We got to get like someone to do it someplace else, and then our country to say, wait a minute, we want that too, you know, because you always want what you can't have, right? That's the old adage, you know.
Win the Mr. Olympia in like Dubai, $1 million prize money, brand new Bugatti and stuff like that.
Patrick David said he wanted to put up $1 million. Now it's interesting. Bodybuilders are frowned upon, but they got a new policy over at Southwest Airlines. Did you see this?
What's that?
No bodybuilders.
No. They're offering. They're offering. Southwest is offering. Hold on, let me just pull this up here. If you're oversized passenger, you can get up to a whole row for yourself for no extra cost. Look at this.
What?
Yep.
What?
Yeah. If you request it now, no cost on Southwest Airlines, you can get up to a full row for free. Now, my question is, what if you're a bodybuilder and you're like,
how oversized do you have to be?
If you're like a Greg Kovacs, can you think you can get a whole row to yourself?
Well, it's
say by identify
size in general.
It says, I'll read the policy here. Hold on.
Say if I identify as a 300-pound bodybuilder.
They're being celebrated by passengers of size, whatever that means. In quotes, passengers of size. I would think bodybuilders would qualify as that. On TikTok,
it's for a big baggy sweatshirt.
After they discovered that they can request complimentary seats, 1 or 2, depending on the needs, to accommodate their girth. Customers whose bodies encroach past the armrest are entitled to an extra seat, according to Southwest's inclusion policy. Inclusion. So obviously bodybuilders would be included, right? I guess in their inclusion policy.
No.
They're currently one of the few, if not only airlines to offer free seats to larger passengers. Southwest provided its policy to Fox Business which said that passengers of size have the option of purchasing just one seat and then discussing your seating needs with the customer service agent at the departure gate. If it's determined that a second or third seat is needed, you'll be accommodated with a complimentary additional seat. The flight team will then buy every seating arrangement.
In the cargo hold.
What? Cargo hold. So I don't see why bodybuilders
is more interested in their DEI score than anything else.
Yeah,
that's
right.
And bodybuilders, mark my words, bodybuilders will not be able to get the same because of the oppressed oppressor matrix that every liberal falls for. And if they're supporting DEI, they're a fucking liberal organization. So what that means is if you are powerful and successful and smart, you're bad. If you're poor and fat and stupid, you're good. So oppressed oppressor. So that's the way it is. If you are a member of an oppressed group, then you can do no wrong. You can have anything you want. You look at the fucking president of Harvard. President of Harvard is a gay black woman. Unfireable.
Yes.
Unfireable. He cannot get fired because she's gay black.
I saw her in front of the Senate committee the
other two women who answered Congress the exact same way are both out of a job right now. Why? Because they're white. They are the oppressor. The oppressed is the black gay woman, and that's the oppressed group. So she can do anything she wants. and the oppressors have to bow down and let her do it. So
I would say that we are oppressed, John, as a group.
When I come back to
bodybuilders are not
America,
oppressed because we're big, strong. A lot of us are smart. So many of there's because we are not fat shameable. That puts us in. Because if we say somebody's fat, now they're oppressed, okay? And the group that's doing the fat shaming, they're the oppressor.
Yeah. So
anywhere that you delve into a liberal-minded philosophy, it is anchored by this oppressor matrix. And if you pull apart all of these idiotic things that you see in the news, it's the same thing. President of Harvard, from all the way down, bodybuilder getting on an airplane because he weighs 400 pounds, he's only getting one seat. Or if he wants to, he's going to have to pay for it. But the fat fuck who's oppressed, they're going to get the whole row for free.
So when I come to the Arnold Classic, I got to know what to do. I'll fly Qantas to LAX. When I get to LAX, I'm going to go in the bathroom, put on protein, put pillows under my shirt, and put on some lipstick, and I'll get the whole fucking row.
That's right.
There you go.
There you go. Act oppressed.
Right.
Unbelievable. I saw those women being questioned by Congress the other day. But what I must say to people, I did see this heartbreaking guy on TV yesterday saying he's being pursued and there's no evidence. Poor Biden's son was there speaking to the press saying, for 6 years, you've been after me and this and that. I'm like, how's it feel, dickhead? How many years you've gone after Trump and his family and stuff? But this is just a witch hunt. And then he blames I was on drugs and I didn't know what I was doing. And they have no evidence on my father, even though they got all the checks that are going to him that are exactly 10%. And you got him saying fired a guy. No, there's no evidence. But
and so now plug in the oppressor matrix. So he's a derelict drug addict, riddled with problems, troubled child. So he's oppressed. Who's bothering Congress? The oppressors, So, Trump is the oppressor because he's successful, white, and rich. So there you go. You can plug that into any of the foibles that we are experiencing socially right now, and you will find that exact pattern everywhere you look. It's the oppressor matrix, and you will look at anybody who falls into that oppressed category gets away with murder. Anything they want, they can do anything. They are
You're talking about OJ.
OJ's another one. There you go, right there.
Actually,
it all started back with OJ.
OJ was the original oppressed black man.
I found a good channel on YouTube, Dave. If you look it up, it's called the Y Files or Y Files. It's like the logo is like WF and question mark, but I think it's called WHY Files, and it goes into all stuff about how we're living in a matrix. And I'm like, Jimmy would love it. It's all these like conspiracies, but then he'll start explaining stuff. I mean, like even my wife was getting into it, and she's like, she doesn't normally watch these type of shows. She's like, what do you watch this shit for? It's like, but this guy's pretty good. It's like, they got episodes on everything, and I was going down the rabbit hole watching all these episodes of everything.
Yeah, don't give that to Jimmy. He'll never leave the house.
Yeah, that's it. That one there, yeah. Man, they've got some good stories in there on different stuff. Well, once you start watching that, you're like,
right down the rabbit hole.
Yeah.
But like they say, like we're living in a matrix because it's always like different things. Like, people can watch a movie, but yet see different things. And he mentioned Moonraker, the James Bond movie, where at the end, the girl smiles at Jaws. And to this day, I remember when she smiled, Jaws with the big silver teeth.
I loved him. Yeah, that guy.
Yeah, when he smiled at her, she smiled back and had braces on. And I could swear she had braces. But but he actually shows the movie. She never had braces. But yet, so they're like, why do one group of people see different things in movies? And the Bernstein Bears, or the way that was spelt, people have said that was this way and that way. And the Flintstones had 2 T's and 1 T. It's like we're living in these different matrix where people can see the same movie but see different things. And when he'll say, this is what everyone thought, what they saw, what was said, it's like that. He even said it was something simple as Snow White, where she's like, what did the Queen say to the mirror? Everyone's like, mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest? But in the actual version, it's like, magic mirror on the wall, who's the fairest?
Well, it's like the movie Field of Dreams. Everyone thinks the voice was saying, build it and they will come. It was really build it and he will come, because it was his father that was going to come.
I thought it was play with it and I will come. No? Oh,
Only
must be a
when
different
shoelace.
movie.
You
Must
need
be a
a
different
shoelace
movie I
and a
was
big
watching.
tomato.
I was watching Field of Creams. That's what I was watching.
That was the Ford movie. Yeah,
A different
We
version.
almost got monetized.
yeah, we almost did. We almost made it. We had 8 minutes left, John, and he.
Yeah, right. We almost made it.
Hey, the last show.
Anyway, in summary, I think it's good that like guys like Bumstead can get on like a mainstream like Patrick David interview, and I think it's definitely good for our sport to get to do more popular type podcasts like that, because it does give us, it does give advertisers and businessmen an idea of, hey, maybe this is something I want to invest in.
Well,
So
Rogan should get more on. I was hoping Rogan, because we saw Milos there, it's sitting right down the front with Rogan, that maybe Rogan would bring Milos on. He's had Derek from More Plates and More Dates on, so why can't you have someone like Milos on, or even yourself, or just because he's into fitness, he's into all that, just get more people out there. Like I said, if people like him start getting behind it and backing it, people are like, hey, this ain't that bad after all.
Guys with popular podcasts want to network with other big, crazy social media people, because it only increases.
We're on it right now. Iron Rage. What's more fucking popular than this, Dave?
Look,
come on.
Why is Patrick Bet-David talking to Chris Bumstead about Ozempic? Chris Bumstead thinks it came out like last year. It's been around. That drug has been around for 15 years. So it's that. But Chris doesn't know anything about that. That's not right to ask him about that. That's not his level of expertise. If they want to ask people about Ozempic and fat loss, you get someone like me on, who has like a tremendous background on application. But the problem is that if I'm Patrick Bet-David, or if I'm Joe Rogan, I'm going to think about, hey, who's coming on my show that's going to get me millions and millions of views? Because you have to keep upping the ante, right? And Rogan's got to justify his salary. Patrick Bet-David has got to, justify that, hey, I'm growing. And so of course you're going to put, Bumstead has 20 million followers, for God's sakes. I mean, that's a good grab for him, I think, right?
Or you could just focus on people who are interesting and discover them. I mean, let's just take you for an example. If Patrick Bet-David had you on the show, or Rogan had you on the show, you don't have 20 million followers, but you're interesting as fuck. So and then other people could watch and go, wow, this guy knows his shit. Who is this guy? Let me look into him. And then they discover Lee Priest, and then me, and then the rest of us. And all of a sudden you've opened this door into this whole entire new world that nobody knew about, because everybody's looking for eyeballs. So
they don't want to discover Lee Priest, because they might cancel me too quick.
They don't want to get demonetized, John. But they'll be like, man, we only made it 5 minutes with this guy. We're already
but if Rogan had Lee on, they would demonetize him. So you got to push the boundaries that way. Then after Lee goes on Rogan, he can come back here and say anything he wants. And because we're poor and small, we're the oppressed, so we can't get in trouble.
I got invited on another podcast today, Dave, at 12:30 at my lunchtime. I've been invited back on Fuad's podcast.
Oh, okay, good.
So I'll be on there with Ian and Mike, and I'll be like, I said, can I answer some of the questions? Because sometimes people always send in their questions, and I'll start replying to them on his page, and he just starts laughing at the answers I give.
I'm going to throw what you here. You can ask Ian when you go on the podcast this question, because I want to know if he's upset. Because one thing that bothered me, and I really like Ian Valier. I know him since I've known him since he turned pro. I was at the Acapulco Latin American Amateur Olympia when he turned pro there. And I've always liked his physique, and I think he's a good guy. I didn't know this, but because Patrick asked him, but Ian was dating Chris Bumstead's sister, Melissa, who they're obviously married now. And Ian was older than Chris, and Chris was like the little brother, and so he saw potential, and Chris wanted to work out, and Ian said, come on, I'll take you to the gym. I'll teach you how to work out, and I'll show you the ropes of bodybuilding. And he got Chris into working out. He helped him for his first show, and he helped him for all his shows, basically. He basically was his mentor and coach. Took him through, 2 or 3 Olympia wins, and then all of a sudden, we don't really know what happened. They said that Ian wanted to focus on his career, and he didn't have time to coach Chris, which I don't believe, because Ian still had other clients that he was working with. And all of a sudden Bumstead switched over to Hani Rambat, who, from what I understand, wasn't even looking to coach him. Chris was constantly calling Hani, and that's how that whole thing happened. So I don't know why they stopped working together, but at the very least, even if Chris said, hey, I want to take it to the next level, I'm going to go to Hani, whatever the case may be, I would think that, on the show when he was explaining this, he really didn't even say Ian's full name. He said, oh, my brother-in-law, the guy dating my sister. He mentioned Ian's name once, just Ian. But no one who's watching the show knows who Ian is. He should have at least said, hey, Ian Valier is a great bodybuilder in his own right. He's now my brother-in-law. He took me from nothing to what I am. I mean, I would have given him a lot more praise, I thought. I thought that was a little bit of a...
Well, it's true now, because pretty much when people think of Chris winning the Olympias, they just think Hani. They forget about Ian was the one who, like the first three of them, was Ian was helping him.
And from when he was 17 years old, and he took him to the he took him to the gym and showed him the ropes. I mean, it's like if I'm dating some girl and she's got a little brother, and I say, hey, come on, I'll take you to the gym. I'll show you how to bodybuild. I mean, that's that relationship, how it started. So I think he should have given him a lot more, praise, especially since Ian coaches people, and that would have helped his business. A big shout out would have been good. So aside from that, I thought the interview was, I thought Chris was great on the interview, but I thought that Ian wasn't getting enough, acknowledgement on that interview. So
I think
what was the family argument you want me to start? Why didn't Chris give you enough acknowledgement on Patrick David's show?
Yeah, say, hey, Ian, Dave thinks that you didn't get enough plugs on the Patrick David interview. What do you think about that?
I don't think these gurus should get any praise. I mean, it's like ridiculous now. I mean, who can't get Mr. Olympia in shape? I mean, you gotta
get Phil Heath,
really
Ronnie. My
grandmother
could give Ronnie a diet and get them in shape.
Right.
It's like they got the genetics, and plus they're already either won a show when they've gone to Hani. Nothing against
that
Hani,
level, John.
they're already at that level.
At that level, you're right. First of all, Hani didn't do anything to change Chris Bumstead's physique. But what Hani does well is these guys are emotional wrecks, a lot of them. And he mentally, Hani's a worrier. So Hani does, and even Chris even mentions on the interview, Hani does all the worrying and takes away the worrying from the competitors. So he will basically give stability, mental stability to these guys, and take care of all the little extras and little incidentals that need to be taken care of. And I think that's why guys like to work with Hani, because they figure
we glorify weakness. That's great.
But let's face it, bodybuilding is such a mental sport, especially those last couple of weeks.
It is, but that's why I've always said, though, in the beginning, it's good. Someone shows you how to lift correctly, how to eat correctly, dieting, bulking, whatever it may be. But after years, the only way you're going to learn is through yourself, because I've always said, if John come to me and said, Lee, get me ready for a show, I don't know John's body. So I'd go, here's a diet, John, follow this. Yeah. Let me know how you're going. So a couple of weeks' time, how you feeling? Okay, take that out, add this, go away for a week or so. How you feeling now? Yep. It's all experimental, back and forth. But these gurus come in like they've got this is it, and I got him ready, and blah, blah,
right,
blah.
Because that's a business. That's a business move, Lee, to make it seem like you're doing something special. What you're basically doing is you're stabilizing their life, essentially, for them by taking the thought process out of it.
Like John said, they're weak. They're weak.
That's what it comes down to. Look, bodybuilding isn't for everybody. It's why we think that everybody can be a bodybuilder, because everybody can go to the gym. There are difficulties beyond lifting weights and suffering through a diet. Right. There are elements to bodybuilding that are difficult. It's hard. If it was easy and a piece of cake, everybody would look like Chris Bumstead, but that's not the case. So to be the best bodybuilder, you have to overcome all the obstacles. You have to learn about drugs. You have to learn about diet. You have to learn about supplements. You have to learn about training. You have to learn about everything, and you do it. It's your sport. Now I'm going to say, well, I'm going to learn about lifting, but only to a point, because I can get a coach to help me the rest of the way. And I'm going to learn about diet, but only to a point, because I can hire somebody to do that. I'm going to learn how to cook, but only to a point, because I can get a meal service to do that. And all of a sudden, you're just standing there. You got a team of 80 people around you doing all your shit. And what are you doing? You are personifying the big dumb meathead, because you can't do anything for yourself.
Well, you know what, John? In defense of that strategy, a lot of guys can be the greatest coach of all time to other people, and then when it comes to themselves, they can't look at themselves objectively and make decisions.
I used to always wonder that, because I even asked that question to Ian when I was talking about the guru conversation, and I said, why is it you can get your brother-in-law in shape? He's won 3 Olympias, but you can't get yourself in shape. You go to Patrick or somebody. I'm like, to me, I just find that like weird, because as John said, it's more of a mental thing towards the end. But
you can't advise yourself too hard.
But at least Dillette, when he lived with me, he was honest, because I said to Dillette, I said, why do you use Chad? You know your body, Paul. And Paul's like, yeah, Lee, because he goes, what are you having for lunch today? I went, I don't know. I haven't decided, steak or chicken. He goes, I go to the fridge and Chad says I have to eat this and I have to have that. He goes, I'm just lazy. He goes, I don't want to think about it.
That's exactly it. Sometimes you need that. You need to take the thought process up, because bodybuilders over and underdo things because we're extremists. So not everyone. Look, the most of my career, I was my own coach because I knew my body and I'm knowledgeable. Mm-hmm. But I did ask certain people I respected, what they thought.
I agree. It's good to have someone to ask or someone to bounce ideas off. Have a good training partner to push you. Have someone honest when you go, gee, I look great today. And they go, I'm sorry, you look like shit. I remember one, which was it before? Was it the Ironman or the Olympia? Flex was posing down near that magic mirror on the wall. Yeah. And everyone thinks he looked great. And I think it was Rico and
magic mirror on the wall, not the not mirror.
And they said the Flex thought he was looking good, and they said, no, you're not looking good. And then Flex didn't talk to him for a couple of months because they said he wasn't looking good.
Right.
It's like, but like I said, the last few weeks is the more mental thing. That's why I said, if you've got a good support team around you, just to keep you motivated, keep you going to the gym, stick to the diet. Because even when you're looking your best, you look in the mirror and you think you look, it's almost like anorexia, where girls think or men think they look fat, but they're skinny. As bodybuilders are the same. You can be looking so good and go, gee, I look shit. And someone looks at you and go, are you nuts? I used to do that backstage. I'd be like, look at the guy over there. He looks right. Look at his arms.
You think that Hadi Choopan needed Hani Rambod to tell him how to eat or had trained? I mean, the guy was already looked like Mr. Olympia before he met him.
You mean that if he didn't do that FTF7, he wouldn't have been.
But what Hani did was Hani facilitated it a place for Hadi to come over early. He stays with him. He helped him get over here, get the visa. I mean, so in essence, Hani provided a very valid service, stabilized Hadi's life.
That's an extreme different case.
No, but I'm giving John. What I'm doing is I'm giving you examples of some people need different aspects of a coach.
Let me ask you this then: would Lunsford have beat Hadi if it wasn't for Hani?
I don't know. Maybe not. I don't think Lunsford had his diet down. I think Hani Rambod did a very good job with Lunsford, who was not his best until he met Hani. I don't think that Bumstead or Hadi Choopan really gained any benefit from being with Hani other than mental, support. But some guys actually do get good, dieting.
I like the pros that have been to Hani, but that didn't work out. So then they'll go to Patrick, and if that doesn't work out, then they go. Some people have been to 5 or 6 different gurus because they think.
In defense of Hani, not every person clicks with every coach. So sometimes you just can't figure out a person's physique. For some reason, the coach and the client don't work well together, and they got to go to someone else.
But the point of my question is that if Lunsford could not have won the Olympia without Hani or beaten Hadi without Hani, he shouldn't have beaten him. Then that's it. It's not like if I'm on a Formula One race, okay, and I'm racing around a Formula One track, I'm not listening in the ear to the whoever coach saying, "What? Take a later apex? No, get on the brakes now." No,
but what about all the training prior to the race? What about the training prior to the race where you guys discussed strategy and you already had all that previously?
At the end of the day, I'm doing the driving. I'm not putting that.
How your brain was trained.
But the thing is, though, if I'm gonna
how
race,
your brain was trained for the driving, though.
Yeah, but if I was going to race, though, like Hani and a lot of these guys who are these gurus now who are training these guys that are winning Olympias, when you look at them, it's like they've never been to the pro level. They've never been there. So if I was on a racetrack, and Michael Schumacher said, Lee, this is how you take the apex. This is when they get on the accelerator. I will listen to him. I'm not going to listen to Joe down the road who just burnouts on the bloody corner and says, "Hey, Lee, listen to me. Spin the tires, go as fast as you
Lee,
can."
There've been great football coaches that never played the game, at a high level, and they just were good coaches because they were motivators.
Because they got great players too. But this is where I hate when coaches here in Australia too, they'll get fired because the team's not doing well. It's not the coach's fault. He can only tell them so much. It's the people on the field. They know how to play the game. If they're not motivated and they don't have it up here, don't blame the coach, because these kids have been playing since they were young. They know how to play the game. But I think mentally they start worrying about sponsorship. They start worrying about this. It's like, do it for the love of the game. If you do it for the love of the game and for the reasons why you got in it to the beginning, everything else will fall into place,
Look at like Bill Parcells. He was a notorious taskmaster. Everyone said he was. When Bill Parcells walked into practice, everyone was like trembling. Other coaches didn't instill that type of fear in the players and motivate them that much. I don't know why. Some coaches just have it, and have.
It's like when Arnold walks in the room. If Arnold was there in the gym and he was just telling you to train hard, you do it because it's Arnold. Some people do have that quality where they just motivate you and you listen to them and just listen to them do them talk. You're like, well, look at Tom Platz's, those clips that come up of Tom. I watch them and I'm like, fuck, I want to go to the gym because Tom has that passion when he's talking and he's getting all crazy. You're like, how could go left?
The greatest Tom Platz clip is when he's doing the leg extensions on the machine and he's like at the 100th rep and the machine, the weight is not moving, but the machine is jumping. And it's like he's not moving the weight anymore, but he's still doing a set.
He's still like doing that. Like he's still doing the.
I think once you turn pro as a bodybuilder, you should be forbidden from using a coach.
Those guys who at the top level, John, need a psychologist.
You should. Then Leslie takes over. If you win your pro card as a bodybuilder, you should be able to bodybuild by yourself.
Chris,
a big boy
Chris
now.
Bumstead said he goes to a psychologist. He said he sees a psychologist.
You need the psychologist the day you think, the day you say to yourself, I'm going to be a bodybuilder, that's when you need the fucking psychologist. Not before you turn pro.
Yeah, not after.
Lee knows that firsthand.
That's true.
Oh, baby, hey, Dave, don't talk about it because, I got into the racing later on and won the championship. I think, imagine at 12 or 13 if I got into racing then or any other sport.
Oh, my God. Yeah. I get it.
I think if I'd started playing with a fucking Rubik's Cube when I was 12 years old, I'd be better off.
There we go back to Red Bull. Red Bull sponsors. Last time I saw it was $1 million prize money for rock, paper, scissors. If I had just smoked coke my whole life and done rock, paper, scissors, I could have won $1 million.
There you go. You would have been a prodigy. Weren't you a gymnast? Didn't you tell me you were a gymnastics prodigy when you were young?
I started with gymnastics before the bodybuilding.
At your height, you would have been probably amazing with that level of muscularity.
On the rings, could you imagine? On the rings and the hobby horse.
Iron Cross. Yeah,
he would have been. He could have been an Olympic gold medalist.
I know, and just having a gold medal, being an Olympic champion, that I could have.
You could have been on a Wheaties box with that. You had the good look, blonde hair, blue eyes. You would have had the Wheatie box and everything. You would have been set. You would have been
somebody.
Then you could have turned into a woman later in life, like Bruce Jenner.
Thanks for making me realize how worthless my life is right now. Thank you. That I've wasted all these fucking years lifting fucking weights.
You could be a beautiful woman right now with an Olympic medal around your neck, And you would be in the oppressed category, like John said, so you'd be able to get an extra seat on the plane.
I could have been like Bruce and changed. I could have been Times Woman of the Year.
That's right. There you go. All right, we got to wrap up. John's got to leave. I know you got to leave. Thank you guys for joining us today for another edition of Iron Rage. If you have any show suggestions, put them in the comments below. We'll see you again next week.